I cheated on my husband with my boss, and I didn't even enjoy it. My husband found out and asked for a divorce. My name is Andrea, and until not long ago, I believed I had a relatively stable life. I was married to Jorge for almost 10 years. When we met, I was 25 and he was 27. From the beginning, he was attentive, caring, and deeply committed to everything he did. I fell in love with his simplicity and the passion he put into even the smallest things. I never imagined we would reach a point where everything would fall apart, but looking back now, I suppose no one gets married thinking there will be an ending. Life, however, has a way of taking turns we rarely anticipate. The first years of our marriage were genuinely good. Jorge worked in the IT department of a tech company, and I managed to get a position in the accounting department of a consumer goods company through university contacts. Our schedules weren't perfect, but we made the effort to have lunch together when possible or cook dinner at home and eat together. There was a natural sense of complicity between us. He talked about his future projects, I shared my ambitions of climbing the corporate ladder. We dreamed of traveling and buying a bigger house. Everything seemed right. Over time, we adapted to the routine of adult life. What once felt exciting, trying new restaurants, planning spontaneous weekend trips, became less frequent. Sometimes we were too tired, sometimes money was tight. Still, our arguments never went beyond small, everyday issues. Jorge would leave clothes on the floor. I hated disorder. Mundane things. Nothing alarming. I always saw him as a good and respectful man. In our intimacy, especially at the beginning, everything was intense. We could spend hours together, laughing, touching, connecting deeply. Communication in bed flowed effortlessly. We knew each other so well that sometimes a single look was enough. But as the years passed, I began to feel that spark fading. The routine of work, responsibilities, and obligations started to outweigh the desire to explore or try something new. Jorge continued trying to please me. I won't deny that. But something inside me stopped vibrating the way it once had. At first, I blamed myself: stress, mood swings, exhaustion. I noticed I often lacked enthusiasm. Jorge didn't complain openly, but I could tell he was worried about the coldness he sometimes felt from me. I couldn't bring myself to admit that I felt the passion was gone. Instead, I told him everything was fine, that it was just a phase. I convinced myself time would fix it. One afternoon, I met with my group of college friends. We didn't see each other often anymore, but we tried to meet for coffee at least once a month. That day, the conversation turned to marriage and intimacy. With some embarrassment, I admitted I felt monotony in bed, even though Jorge was still attentive. They exchanged knowing looks, and one of them, Cynthia, said something that shocked me. Why don't you look for something outside? An affair. An adventure. Sometimes that's what you need to wake yourself up. Others nodded in agreement. I stayed silent, stunned by how casually they treated it. At first, I felt offended. I said I would never cheat on my husband, that I couldn't live with that morally. They argued that sometimes, to avoid damaging a marriage, breaking the routine that way actually helped. They claimed it didn't mean loving your husband less, just reigniting something missing. I went home with that idea stuck in my head, even though I rejected it. I felt guilty for even considering it. Weeks passed. I tried to take more initiative with Jorge, suggesting different plans, but the routine kept pulling us back. He seemed exhausted, focused on work and overtime. Some nights, we barely spoke. He fell asleep watching documentaries. I lay next to him with a book I sometimes didn't even read. Slowly, instead of harmony, I felt frustration. Not toward him, but toward myself, my body, my mind, for failing to feel that spark. At work, everything changed. My longtime boss retired, and a new department director was appointed, Julian. He was a few years older than me, but energetic, confident, and striking. The first time I saw him, his presence caught my attention. Well-dressed, sharp features, commanding the room effortlessly. One afternoon, he called me into his office to discuss reports. He asked detailed questions about my role, my achievements, my ambitions. I left feeling scrutinized and strangely nervous, wanting to impress him. Over time, he complimented my work and made casual remarks. "You look very elegant today. That blouse really suits you." I blushed and felt something I hadn't felt in years. Without realizing it, I started dressing more carefully, putting more effort into my appearance. I liked feeling desired. That's when my friend's words came back to me. The idea I had rejected now lingered. I felt ashamed, but Julian occupied my thoughts. He made me feel alive. Nervous. I looked forward to his comments, his attention. One night, while Jorge watched a documentary, I asked myself if I could really betray a man who had done nothing wrong. But the desire for something new clouded my judgment. I justified it to myself: it would be just once. No one would know. It wouldn't destroy my marriage. Things escalated quickly. Julian invited me to dinner to discuss projects. I agreed and told Jorge I had work obligations. He trusted me completely. That dinner was tense for me. Julian was charming, confident, flirtatious. Soon there were more dinners. Then one night, he suggested somewhere more private. In the parking lot, he took my hand. My heart was racing, but I followed him. We went to a discreet hotel. Inside the room, we kissed intensely. Adrenaline drowned out guilt. But when it happened, reality didn't match my fantasy. Julian didn't know my body the way Jorge did. He didn't understand my rhythms or my needs. It felt mechanical. Self-centered. Empty. I missed the warmth and silent understanding Jorge and I had built over years. When it ended, Julian asked confidently if I enjoyed it. I lied and smiled. Walking out of that hotel, I felt hollow. I had betrayed my husband and gained nothing. That night, I barely slept, drowning in guilt. I swore it would never happen again. The next day, I decided to appreciate Jorge more, to reset everything. I thought if I acted normal, he'd never know. I was wrong. That evening, I came home to a heavy silence. Jorge stood in our bedroom, holding his phone, suitcases open. He showed me photos me entering and leaving the hotel with Julian. My world collapsed. He told me he had suspected for weeks. He had proof. I begged, cried, apologized. He listened in silence, packed his things, and left. The next day, I received divorce papers at work. Soon after, my performance dropped. Julian, instead of supporting me, warned me I'd be fired if I didn't improve. Days later, I was dismissed. The divorce proceeded quickly. Therapy didn't save us. Jorge couldn't forgive the betrayal. The judge finalized everything. Now I live in a small apartment. Barely furnished. Barely surviving. I lost my marriage, my job, my stability, all for an illusion. That affair didn't revive anything. It destroyed everything. And that is the truth I live with every single day. Let me know what you think in the comments, and if you enjoyed the story, don't forget to like and subscribe.